In the early hours of this morning, I thought I'd be addressing you on the eve of World War III, a war which would bring about the end of life on this planet. But that's because I briefly made the mistake of believing the mainstream media in full, screeching, hoarse, ferocious and ugly harmony that Russia had attacked Poland with missiles. Poland, being a member of NATO, had triggered Article 5 of the NATO Constitution, and that therefore a state of war existed between NATO and the Russian Federation. Of course, we now know that it was all a lie or a terrible mistake. You choose, you decide. Every single organ of the British media salivating, dripping with the saliva and blood of war, was roaring for a unleashing of those dogs of war and crying havoc. And it was frightening at 2 o'clock in the morning at least. By 5 o'clock in the morning it became clear. Any fool knoweth that the trajectory of the rocket, the casing that was photographed on the ground in the unfortunate farmstead on the border between Poland and Ukraine, could not possibly have been a Russian missile. Russian territory is 1,000 kilometers away. The range of the missile that we were looking at on our screens was 160 kilometers. Moreover, it had Ukrainian markings on it. Now, the Pentagon, the Polish government, and every other government in the world is openly stating it was a Ukrainian missile. But Zelensky, the provocateur, continues to insist that it was a Russian missile attack on Poland. The man is an inveterate liar, a hoaxer, a comedian, and yet you are still giving him billions of your taxpayers' dollars, speaking of which, the FPX Ponzi scheme, which collapsed this week, cost 5 million people $10 billion. But the Democrats and Joe Biden are laughing all the way to the bank because before the Ponzi scheme collapsed, its owner gave north of $40 million in donations in just 6 months to Joe Biden's Democrats for the midterm elections. Moreover, he pledged $1 billion for the re-election fund of Joe Biden in 2024. Speaking of which, Donald Trump is off and running. I told you he would be. He took his club, I don't know if he paid the commercial rate for the hire, at Mar-a-Lago in Florida to announce this week that he is a candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. His liberal, progressive, and democratic opponents affect to be amused, but in fact, they now walk in dread because they can't be sure, despite their soft power in big tech and in the mass media, that they will be able to defeat him again. We'll be talking about all of these things and more over the next 2 hours. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night because this is the mother of all talk shows.